So before we get into this video, I just want to say that this is not a Nintendo-only channel. I know that the last 3 videos or so have been Nintendo Switch or Nintendo related, but I do talk about other things on this channel, so if you're interested in the other things I may be talking about in the future, go ahead and subscribe and ring-a-ding-ding-dong that bell or whatever the hell that you need to do now to actually see stuff in your subscription feed. I like to talk about games and stuff and other things also. This will probably be the last Nintendo related video for a while, at least until something more interesting happens in the future. Maybe when the Switch actually launches, I'll make a video talking about something, but no guarantees. So yeah, let's get into today's video. After that whole direct, there's obviously a huge elephant in the room, and we'll get to that elephant in the room at the end, closer to the end of the video. But I kind of wanted to run through all the things that I thought were interesting to me. So let's get to that first before we talk about, you know what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, Elden Ring on the Switch 2. I said that as a throwaway in the last video, but I didn't expect it to actually be. I mean, I guess I should have. But I didn't expect it to be on the Switch 2. But it's confirmed to be on the Switch 2. And that's dope as hell, because the one friend I have that only plays on his Switch can now play Elden Ring. And that's sick. I want to talk about the game chat, but before I do that, I need to bring up the fact that Nintendo has yet another paid tech demo for this console. The 1-2-Switch game was the tech demo, or the Wii Sports equivalent for the Switch, or the original Switch. And that costs $60, and I don't think there's any way in hell that you can convince me that that's worth $60. And same kind of applies here for this tech demo. I forgot what it's called off the top of my head, but I'll put it on screen. From what it looks like, it feels like it has a bunch of mini games, kind of like, Wii Sports, and at least Wii Sports was a fun game to play, but like it's supposed to demonstrate the technology that the Switch 2 has. But this is something that I feel like you should not make people pay for. It doesn't seem right to charge for what is essentially a glorified tech demo, right? I always think that's a miss. 1-2-Switch seems like a fun game to play, but like, would I pay $60 for it? Is this game going to cost $60 or more than that? I don't know. Maybe if it was like $10, then that'd be fine. But like, I really feel like this is something you should just include with your console as like a welcome game. So let's talk about game chat. Game chat, I think on its face, is kind of cool, but I have a few issues with it. I think what they're doing with the camera is really cool when it comes to involving yourself or including yourself in the game as a stand-in. So for example, that Mario Party demo they showed, where you can kind of all stand inside Mario Party and catch Goombas on your head, I think that is a really good use of this kind of technology for a game, because I don't know, like, it feels fun that you can play games together with your friends in that kind of way and see each other on the screen like you're starring in the game or something like that. I think this is actually kind of a cool idea, only because it reminds me a lot of the iToy from the PlayStation 2 era. I always had a lot of fun going to the store and playing with the iToy. I never had my own. I would just always go to like Target with my parents and play with the iToy until they were done shopping. However, when they talk about this game chat thing and this whole group video chat thing, we all saw this, and this must have been the best take they got of the game working, but having all 4 of these screens on, this must be really taxing for the Switch 2, so they probably are limiting the frame rate of your friends' streams, but it's honestly really bad looking. I don't even know why they bothered showing that off like that and that in depth. I mean, it is cool. Like, I think people will like that. You can say that Discord does all that, but Nintendo, a little bit like Apple, wants to keep everything within their own ecosystem, and having your players or your customers also chat on your service and also have to pay for that, because apparently that's a Nintendo Switch membership or Nintendo Online membership exclusive for them. That helps make them more money, right? And it also makes the experience more insular and focused on the console instead of like, oh, I have to get Discord. They did have that solution of, using a phone app to communicate. I don't remember if they're going to keep doing that. I think for the most part, at least from what it seems like, is that you'll be able to talk directly on the Switch. So they might be getting rid of that. functionality. I might be misremembering how the app stands, if they mentioned it, if they haven't mentioned it, I'm not sure. So if I'm wrong on that, please let me know. This gave me traumatic flashbacks, but I didn't really like how they were saying, yes, use the microphone on the console to talk to your friends. I don't know. I'm getting, flashbacks to the Kinect, the original Kinect, where that had a microphone on it, and, you'd be playing online matches with people and Call of Duty or whatever you're playing, and you'd be hearing a screaming 10-year-old, and their entire family. They say in the direct that the noise canceling will be so cool. The other person will not be able to tell that your douchebag roommate is making a protein shake in the background with his magic bullet or whatever ninja device he's got. It's going to be so good. It's going to isolate your voice even though you're like 10 feet away from it. I usually don't have high confidence in microphone noise reduction technology and also keeping the sound quality good. But hey, Discord does it really well. So if it's anywhere near the quality of Discord, if it's on Discord's level, fine. I'm sure it'll be great. I just don't think it will be. So there's also the game share feature that they're adding. I think that was really cool, and I think that'll be great. So one person can have a copy of the game for a multiplayer game, and then you can share it to different Switches so that other people can play it without having to buy a copy of the game. I think that'll be a really neat feature. It'll help people play games together better. They had features like that before on the 3DS, and I always think features like that are really cool. It's kind of like the game studio that makes those co-op games like A Way Out. I forget the name, but he's that really eccentric guy who always at the Game Awards.
There are passionate people, there are crazy people, and there is me. I'm so passionate to be here. Look, the Oscars should fuck themselves up. This is the shit. Can you swear here? Can you swear? Okay. Fuck the Oscars, Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you!
But that studio always has a buddy copy that you one person can buy the actual copy of the game, and they have a downloadable free version for your friend to play, so that you don't both have to have a copy of the game to play online. So they mention 4K 60, and that's so I think with the Switch 2, they are using NVIDIA's DLSS or DSLL, I think it's DLSS, and AI upscale technology. So what I think, now I am not brushed up on this at all, I may be completely wrong, and again, if I am wrong, please let me know in the comments, but from what I understand, they're basically using AI upscaling so that the Switch is rendering it at a certain resolution, let's just say 1080p, and then it uses AI to upscale that resolution to 4K so that it looks nicer without taking up as much processing power for the console.
The frame generation AI network generates an intermediate frame with accurate geometry and effects, which we then interleave between traditionally rendered frames. Between super resolution and frame generation, DLSS 3 uses neural rendering for 7 out of every 8 pixels on screen. By using AI for such a large portion of the work, DLSS 3 is able to provide dramatic speedups of 4x or even more, especially for games that use the highest quality visual effects like full ray tracing.
It's impressive on paper. I just don't really know how this will play out practically. Even with the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, they both boast yeah, we can do 4K 60. A lot of times when they do 4K, it's not 60. That's the other thing. A lot of games you'll have this quality mode and performance mode, and the quality mode will be 4K 30 or 4K 30, and then you'll have a performance mode that will be 1080p but 60. If the Switch 2 is anything like the original Switch, a lot of games will be not as good looking on it as they are on other platforms. I'm sure Elden Ring is going to be the main game for comparisons amongst the PlayStation 5, Xbox, and the Switch 2. So we'll have to see how that works out. Games could just end up looking like total ass. So I don't know. Regardless of what Nintendo boasts spec-wise, 4K 60 or 1080p, I think 120 frames, I don't think any games on the Switch 2 are going to be as good looking as they are in PS5. Or Xbox for that matter. They're still going to be the worst looking console. Your games will probably look the worst on there. They'll just look better than they would on the Switch 1. The mouse controls. I talked about the mouse controls in the last video, since we looked at those patents that had gotten leaked about how they might work, and it seems that they work in the same way that I kind of expected they would. They didn't really show much use case for them. I think A lot of it was kind of like, here is the mouse controls in a white room on a white long table. But I really like to see some practical use for these mouse controls with games. They did show this game called Drag Drive, I believe. It's the wheelchair basketball, like Rocket League kind of looking game. That game looked really cool and interesting control-wise. I wonder what other use cases they're expecting with these controls. The way that I'm thinking is like FPS, first-person shooter. Any kind of games like that end up on Switch 2. I feel like that would be an interesting way to kind of include mouse controls without having to plug in a USB mouse. But I don't really know how that's going to work from like a comfort point of view, because if you're going to be sitting on your couch at home playing on your Switch 2, how are you going to use the mouse controls from there? The only way you can really comfortably use them, for me anyway, would be at a desk, if you have your Switch docked to a desk. So no more couch. I did see an article claiming that the Joy-Con 2's mouse controls can work on pretty much any surface, any fabric. They kind of intend for you to use it on your pants. And they apparently put a lot of work into making sure it worked on your pants. I'm sure they've done a lot of testing with games for that kind of use, but I really would like to see that, to see how it works, because right now it sounds like it would be really annoying and I wouldn't want to play that way, but hey, I could be wrong. So the last thing that I thought was really interesting about the Switch 2 was this FromSoft exclusive new IP called The Duskbloods. That's crazy to me. I would have never seen this coming. A exclusive FromSoft game on a Nintendo console? Like, this does not fit Nintendo's MO at all. This doesn't fit the catalog of what you would expect on Switch. But I think it's a really interesting choice and a really interesting move. The way I read this is that it kind of signifies, I think, a transition for Nintendo from being just, like, I think a lot of people think of Nintendo as the Nintendo console, obviously, but the one that you get just to play your Nintendo games, and you play all your other games on other platforms. I think they're trying to change that with the Switch 2. The original Switch kind of felt like a handheld that could be a home console, and I think with the Switch 2, what they're going for is a home console that can be a handheld. You can kind of see this shift overall, I think, in the way they present each console. So, like, if you look back at the Switch 1's launch trailer, there's a lot more of a focus on being mobile and playing your games out in the go, like whether that be in an airport, the park, I think, was one of the places they showed, or just out anywhere, on the rooftop at work on lunch or something like that, With this Direct, there was more of an emphasis on like this home environment. Like, people are sitting at home, they are sitting in their spaces, and they're playing with each other online together and using this camera to see each other. I think this is kind of an idea that probably came about from the pandemic, where like, people can't really go anywhere and people are in this online space and this online mode, and they're trying to bring people together through that online space. It's an important distinction to me. I think that they're trying to actually change the dynamic that they've had for a while with their console being only for their games, with this new FromSoft game that they're bringing on exclusively for the Switch. And we don't know if this is going to be like a wholly exclusive Switch game forever. It could be a timed exclusive. It could come out on other consoles or platforms maybe in a year or two. But it seems like they're trying to change the perception of what their consoles are used for. They're trying to make it like, hey, this is going to be your everything machine now. It's powerful enough to be your everything machine. I don't know if it will be powerful enough to be their everything. I doubt that. Like I said before, the Nintendo Switch 2 will most likely still be the weakest console out there in terms of performance, in terms of like quality and visuals. You're not going to, like, regardless of 4K 60, however they spin that, I don't think it's going to look as good as like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. I just don't see it happening on this tiny handheld. There's much more power behind those other consoles for them to work with than the Switch 2 has right now. I think if you're someone who cares about visual fidelity, you're probably not going to want a Switch 2 as your main gameplay console. I mean, granted, if you cared about quality, you'd be on PC already and you'd be talking shit about this console in the comments right now. So whatever. But with this shift to being more of like a home console versus a mobile console comes the elephant in the room, right? The price. So they didn't really show it in the direct at all, and that was kind of a red flag for me. They kind of just, danced around what everything was going to cost, and I think they kind of revealed that after the direct. They put it on the website, and then you could see the prices, and they also revealed how much games would cost. The Switch 2 will base price cost $450. And if you buy Mario Kart, the new Mario Kart with it in the bundle, it's going to cost $500. So $450 and $500 with a game puts it within the same price range as a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. That's another reason for me that the dynamic has shifted. It's on that level. It's no longer just PlayStation and Xbox being up here at 500 and then like the Nintendo Switch being down here at like 300 and like 350 for the OLED. The Nintendo Switch always felt like the cheaper option. They also had the Switch Lite, which was even cheaper than that. I don't remember the exact price, but I think it was probably like $250 or something like that. So now the Switch 2 is in that home console price range. And at that point, with the addition of having third-party games, or it's seemingly like them trying to add more third-party games, with Elden Ring and then also the Duskbloods, and then I'm assuming that later on in launch, we're going to see, like once the Switch 2 is out, we're going to see more third-party titles be ported over. With more emphasis on that kind of strategy, I feel like Nintendo is well within this competition of those two other consoles. I've always heard some Nintendo fans say that Nintendo is like this special little boy that doesn't compete with Sony or Microsoft and exists in their own bubble. They have their games and that's where they shine. And like people would often say like, oh, I have a PC for all my other games and I have a Switch for my Switch games. Where they're at with their competition now is along the same line. So you're now going to have people have to make the decision of like, do I get a PlayStation 5? Because, like realistically, no one's asking the question of, do I get an Xbox? Nobody's buying that thing. I mean, I have one, but, nobody else does. There's like me and 5 other people. But like, it's either, do I get a PS5 or do I get a Switch 2? And right now, you can get a PS5, a digital-only PS5, for cheaper than you can get the Switch 2. It's entering that conversation of not really being the cheapest console anymore. I don't think the price of the console really means a different... I honestly think that $450 is kind of what I expected. Because when I was talking with my friends about what we thought the price of this thing was going to be before we knew, I was running between $400 to $500. And so it kind of goes along the lines of what I expected to see. But I think the real sticker shock for a lot of people was the software. So they announced that the games on Switch 2, at the very least, I think first-party titles will be $80 digitally and $90 physically, which is kind of a lot. I don't know if you know that, but it's kind of a lot. So $70 is becoming the new standard, if you might know, throughout games. There are PlayStation 5 games that cost $70, and even certain Switch games cost $70. Like I think Tears of the Kingdom was a $70 game. The jump to $80 and then $90 for physical is kind of crazy. Games do get more expensive to make. Games are larger generally, and the labor that goes into them is, there's a lot of labor that goes into making games. There's a lot of people that work on every single game. I mean, sit there and watch the credits for your favorite game and see how many people actually make that thing. It's a lot. Unless you play an indie game where one person makes it, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the AAA games. I'm talking about the big budget games. Where the world's going right now, and with the tariffs that are going to definitely affect the price of this stuff. I mean, there was even an article I saw today before I was recording this video that Nintendo has like pulled pre-orders for the Switch 2 because of the tariffs that have been enacted. So we don't know. The Switch 2 and like the games might get more expensive. We don't really know yet. There's really no confirmation on that. Like sure, they could have said $450 and $500, but it could be $600. It could be $700. We don't know. But regardless, even if it's at where they said it's going to be, like price of the games anyway, it's a lot. The problem with this is that the conversation right now is not really about the Switch 2 or the cool games that they showed. It's about how much it costs and how nobody likes that. I don't think the prices are really going to dissuade Switch fans or Nintendo fans from buying this console, but I think what they will run into problems is like other people outside of the Nintendo bubble. Convincing a mother of a child that they should buy their kid a new Switch when it costs like $600 with tax and everything and a game or two. If you get the bundle, maybe you get the bundle and then you buy another game that's going to be $80, right? Mario Kart and then like whatever $80 game that they throw in there. It's going to be around $600, then tax, it's going to be like $650, like stuff like that. That's a lot to ask. And they may have a harder time convincing people to do that right away. The problem that they're running into right now is just people feeling very negative about the cost of the games. I don't really think people care about the cost of the console. It's pretty much just the games. So I forgot to mention this earlier, but related to this, they did announce that certain games are going to be getting upgrades for the Switch 2. But you will have to buy an upgrade for it, which is kind of infuriating, especially when Microsoft has done so much work to like upgrade older games for the Xbox Series X and boost them. Like you can play the entire Gears of War trilogy, the original trilogy from the 360 in like, a 1080p and 60 frames per second. That's honestly amazing. And it's free. It just works. You pop the game in and you can play it. Xbox had to do so much work to make all that work for every single game. So it's really impressive on that front. And for Nintendo to go and charge for that feels a little slimy. So I'm not really a huge fan of that. I think they should just let the games update those games and if you put it into a Switch 2, it's going to be better automatically. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to pay $30. It feels like a lot of nickeling and diming, which I don't like. And I don't think a lot of people like that either. So yeah, that's kind of my big takeaway from that. Let's just wrap this up. I think I've been talking long enough, but you get the idea. The Switch 2 looks cool. I think the hardware is cool. We'll have to see about that 4K 60. We're going to have to see how games look on it. That'll be interesting to see. The camera, the game chat, that's cool, but yet the screen share stuff, kind of terrible. Probably wouldn't use that because, personally for me, I get motion sickness when I see like choppy frame rates. Like that can have an effect on me, can make me nauseous. So like there's probably other people that are like that as well. So I would never even engage in that at all. I would never even turn that on. But I think it's cool otherwise. I think the game sharing is going to be really cool. Maybe that's why they're making their games $80 and $90. They're like, well, only one of you is going to be buying it now, so we got to make up the cost. Maybe that's a reason for it. I would like to see more of the mouse controls, so we can get a feel for how they intend these to work in other kinds of games. I'm assuming that the one that's really going to benefit from this might be Splatoon. I think this might be a much easier way of aiming for playing that game specifically than like using the gyroscope control on your like Pro controller or on your Switch. I play Splatoon 3 and I find the motion control kind of controls a little obtuse. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of motion controls, as you may already know. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that just to see what else they're thinking of besides the wheelchair game and stuff like that. And the exclusive FromSoft game, the Duskbloods. That's really sick. It looks right up my alley. It looks cool. I don't know if I'm really ready to play another Soulsborne game yet after playing like 300 plus hours in Elden Ring. But, if I wanted to, I'd have to get a Switch 2. So, yeah. I don't know if I'm ready for that one. But yeah, I think it's disappointing to see how much the conversation has shifted from what the new console is going to bring tech-wise and has now kind of just become this conversation about the price of the games and the software. I think that regardless of how we feel about it, games are going to get more expensive. Everything's going to get more expensive. But specifically with games are going to get more expensive as time goes on. We're not going to be able to have games just be $60 anymore. Eventually, there would be a future where games would be $80. I just feel that here they've jumped the gun on it. Like, I feel like if they were to just say that, hey, our games are going to be $70, people would have been fine with that and kind of just expectant of that. But to jump the gun at 80, and even 90 for physical, it kind of is reminiscent of the PlayStation 3 era where Nintendo feels like, you know what I mean if you were around back then. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, back when the PS3 launched, they launched that thing at $600 in 2006. And that was a lot of money.
In North America, the PlayStation 3 will be available at retail on November 17th, 2006. The 20 gigabyte PlayStation 3 will retail for $499 US dollars and 549 Canadian dollars. And the 60 gigabyte PlayStation 3 for $599 US dollars, $659 Canadian.
It's still a lot of money now. Think about it. The PlayStation 5 right now costs $500 or $400, and that's still cheaper than it was back then in 2006. I think adjusted for inflation, that might be like $800 and $900. That's a lot of money for a console. So Nintendo's actions here give me the same kind of vibe of the arrogance of coming off of a very successful generation and then thinking that your consumers, your fans will just pay whatever that you make the price for your games and your console. I think they're going to run into at least a little bit of roadblock here, but who knows, you know, Nintendo has a lot of diehard fans and they will defend it to the death. It's, you know, Nintendo fans kind of remind me a lot of Apple fans. Like, you know, the really hardcore Apple fans, they will sit in line for a new iPhone at like 6 in the morning and they'll love it. Every single year, they'll be like, I'm going to spend $1,200 on this phone. And it's the same exact phone that I had last year, except now it has a different kind of notch. Now the bezel is 5% thinner. I now have 10% more battery life. And Nintendo fans also feel like that. I think with those people, it's not going to matter. If you already know that you're going to buy a Switch 2, you're going to buy a Switch 2. Nothing is going to stop you. But like I said, I think that's going to stop people who are more on the fence, more casual in their playing of games. People who weren't expecting to pay so much for a Nintendo console. They're used to the Switch costing $300 and they're used to their games costing a certain amount. So when they see these prices, they're just like, hey, I'm not buying that then. I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I thought was important to me, at least, from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. There was a lot in that Direct that I didn't really cover. Like I said, this video is mostly the stuff that I took away from it and the stuff that I wanted to talk about. But there was a lot of games announced. There was a lot of other little details and stuff that I might have glossed over. But yeah, let me know what you took away from the Switch 2 Direct. Let me know what your favorite part is. Maybe there's a game that you're looking forward to that I didn't talk about or mention, because all I care about is Elden Ring on the Switch and maybe that new FromSoft game. But like, yeah, if there's anything that you think was cool, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.